Ayy, look, yeah, ayy. I'm in the lab like Dexter, brand new batch he tested. I'm with all the extras, don't try and bitch, I'm pressure. I'm the type to step on steppers, I'm the type to step on steppers. I'm the type to step on steppers, I'm the type to step on steppers.
Outside of that, that pretty much wraps up the play-in tournament. We have our 16 teams that have officially clinched their spot to make it into the dance. And with that being said, I say we just go ahead and get into it all, and we'll go ahead and start off with the Eastern Conference, and we'll just go ahead and jump right into it, man. The number one seeded Boston Celtics are going to play the Miami Heat, a team that they know very, very well at the back of their hand. And so let's go ahead and get a prediction there, and say our piece about what we think will happen, and just X factors and things of that nature. So let's go ahead and start off.
It's gonna be. I mean, I was already pessimistic about the matchup, even with Jimmy Butler potentially playing, and now with him being ruled out for it. I mean, I pretty comfortably say it's going to be a sweep in this matchup because the Miami Heat, without a true number one option, without a number one scorer, and a guy that's an elite creator. I mean, it's going to be a tough ask against this Boston Celtics team that is just overwhelmingly good. I mean, they have Jrue Holiday, Jason Tatum, Derek White, Jaylen Brown. I mean, Porzingis. I mean, the entire roster, from top to bottom, just elite. And it's a tough ask. Miami. We've always played them well with our zone, but missing our guy Jimmy Butler. Scoring wise, it's going to be hard to keep up. And Porzingis has been a thorn in that zone all season long with how he stretches it. So I'm comfortably saying it's going to be a sweep. I can't even see a game because that would take one of the guys like a Tyler Hero or a Jaime Jaquez or Bam just having a big game. And, I feel like that's unlikely to happen or unlikely to give us even one win. So I'm going to say 4-0.
Man, you selling short on your team again, Abby?
No Jimmy now.
No, Jimmy's kind of tough, man.
Man, I'm giving y'all one game. I ain't selling short on y'all that much, but I'm giving y'all one game. I think it's 4-1. I think one of those games is going to be, where Boston just gives up and they really don't play up to par and they just like, they don't care. But yeah, it's gonna be a tough series for y'all. It's gonna be offensively and defensively. I feel like you guys are gonna struggle against them. They have a lot of size. They play phenomenal defense. They can shoot the ball. So I feel like it's gonna be tough, and I feel like it's gonna be a cakewalk for them. But yeah, 4-1.
Yeah, man. You're giving them one more game extra than me. I think I'm right there with Abdi. I can't see a team without Jimmy Butler, without their leader, stealing a game off the Boston Celtics, a team that's been red hot this entire season. These guys are coming in. They smell blood. They want to get their lick back against this team. And if they had Jimmy Butler, I'd probably be swinging towards the other way. I'd probably think the Miami Heat do win this series. They'll probably have to win it in 7 games. But whenever Jimmy Butler plays this team, he just steps up to the occasion. He rises as a playoff riser. But without him, I'm not too sure how Eric Spoelstra is going to game plan offensively and defensively for this team. And so for the Boston Celtics, man, they know they have a great opportunity in front of them to just quickly get these guys out of the way, 4-0, and then shift their focus to the next matchup between whoever comes out from those two teams. But for the Boston Celtics, they're just going to continue to play their brand of basketball. And I wish Jimmy Butler was playing in this series, but injuries are a part of the game, and what can you do at this point? So for the Boston Celtics, I give them a 4-0 sweep to get these guys out of here, and they start preparing for that second round matchup. Let's go ahead and move on to a more interesting matchup. We have the New York Knicks playing the 7th seed Philadelphia 76ers. No Julius Randle in this one, but it could be interesting.
It's going to be a tougher matchup. I'm thinking of going with Philadelphia in 7. The Knicks kind of have the personnel to at least kind of bother or slow down Embiid, but they're not going to be able to play that zone that Miami plays. I mean, they play a more traditional kind of man-to-man. Miami plays a lot more zone, but they have Isaiah Hartenstein, they have Precious Achiuwa, and they have Mitchell Robinson, who's been ramping up his play. So they have bodies to throw at Embiid, but I just believe that Embiid is going to be the best player in this series, and I think Nick Nurse is going to throw a lot of looks at Jalen Brunson and try to force Jalen Brunson to beat him in multiple ways. And it's going to be a tough ask without their secondary creator and Julius Randle. And a lot of people are going to give flack to Julius Randle about the playoff stuff, and rightfully so. But you need a guy that's going to be exerting himself physically and getting downhill, getting to the rim, attacking, scoring in multiple ways. And in a series where I don't know who New York's second best scorer is going to be. Is it going to be OG Anunoby? Is it going to be Dante DiVincenzo? It's just question marks for me. And if they're going to constantly blitz and trap Jalen Brunson, and they're going to throw Kelly Oubre at him, Batum, Lowry, I'm curious on how the Knicks are going to be able to attack that matchup. And I just feel like in this series, Embiid's play is going to finally show up in the playoffs. And Maxey, I think they're going to throw OG Anunoby on him in different spots. So I don't know if his game is going to translate that much, but even then, I feel like the Philadelphia 76ers have two of the three best players in this series, and that's why I feel a little more confident going with them.
Knicks in 7, baby. Knicks tight, baby. I got, I'm trusting in Jalen Brunson and the boys. I think defensively, I think they're gonna give Embiid hell. I believe that the physicality level that they're gonna put on Embiid is gonna be tough. It's gonna be a physical fight. And I just don't think that Embiid's gonna show up in the playoffs. I haven't thought he showed up in any of the playoff series yet. And I just don't think he's gonna make it this round. And I feel like Miami played great on him in the playing game, and I just think the Knicks are going to be much more physical with him. Knicks in 7, baby.
This one is a very, very tough matchup for me. I thought at one point in the day I thought the New York Knicks would win this series, but in the end, for me, I just don't know why. I just feel like the Philadelphia Sixers do win this series in 7 games, and even though Jalen Brunson has been balling out this entire season, and especially as of late, these last couple of weeks leading up to the postseason, I think this might be a series for Joel Embiid to step up. For Joel Embiid to assert his dominance, like he was doing, up until he tore his meniscus in January. For the New York Knicks, outside of Jalen Brunson, they're gonna need a lot of guys like to contribute. OG, Josh Hart, Dante DiVincenzo, Bogdanovich off the bench. But I'm just not too sure if, with all of their bigs, with all of the guys that they can throw at Joel Embiid, I'm not too sure if all of those guys are capable of slowing him down. And if Joel Embiid is able to get some contributions from his role players, from his guys like Maxey, and then all the other guys that they roll with, Kyle Lowry, Kelly Oubre, and Nicholas Batum, I do think they have a fair shot. But this is a series where I feel like, Joel Embiid is probably going to come into this series and finish it maybe averaging about 32 plus, getting back to his regular season numbers, just asserting his dominance against the New York Knicks front court, Isaiah Hartenstein and Mitchell Robinson and Precious Achiuwa. And so, normally in a postseason spot where I wouldn't necessarily not root for, but necessarily, rock with the Philadelphia 76ers, I think this might be a very good opportunity for them, to take advantage of a team that doesn't have Julius Randle. So, if Nick Nurse is able to game plan to blitzing Jalen Brunson and trying to get the ball out of his hands and force other guys to beat him, they do have a very good opportunity. So, but I'm going to go ahead and go with the Philadelphia 76ers to win this series in 7 games. It will go the distance. Next, we have the number 3 seeded Milwaukee Bucks going up against the 6th seeded Indiana Pacers. The status for Giannis Antetokounmpo is still up in the air. I'm not too sure when he'll be back. Will he be back in this at some point in this series? I guess we're just going to have to wait for the final injury report to come out in a couple of days. But let's go ahead and get a prediction.
I think the Pacers end up winning this series in 6. I just think and I really do want to believe that Dame will, show up in this playoff series, and he'll show why. Everybody was expecting big things from him in Milwaukee, but at the same time, I just think overall Indiana's pace and their offense is just going to overwhelm the Bucks, especially without Giannis. Defensively, they were already suspect with Giannis in the lineup, and he's comfortably their best defender. And without him, I'm a bit worrisome about how they're going to look. And yes, Indiana has their defensive woes, but you have a guy like Pascal Siakam, and you have Halliburton there, and the amount of scoring ability that offense generates, I just think it's going to be too much. And I'm not too confident in Damian Lillard having a big series, because that's exactly what it'll take for the Milwaukee Bucks to really have a shot in this series. And if they're in the regular season series, and obviously it's still regular season, but even then in the regular season matchups, I mean, the Pacers were playing them great, and so I expect no less short in the playoffs, and I think Pacers win in 6.
Yeah, Giannis again, his health looking scary, and I do believe Dame's gonna have a great series. I feel like this series is a little run and gun for him. I feel like it's gonna be a high pace series, and I feel like he's gonna have the ball in his hands a lot. I just don't think the other guys on his team, and Chris Middleton, Malik Beasley, and guys like Brook Lopez are gonna step up and show up. But I feel like missing Giannis is gonna have a big void in that offense and a big void in that defense as well. I feel like it's gonna be tough for them to run up and down the court with the Pacers. And I think the Pacers, man, I think they come in. I think they start shooting stuff, and I feel like Halliburton has he's he's getting healthy. It's been a minute since that injury. I feel like he finally probably got his feet underneath him. I think he's gonna have a great series against his Milwaukee team. Feel like they're gonna try to put Beverly on him, try to stop him from pushing up and down the court, but I just don't think that's gonna happen. And I probably got the Pacers in 6. But if Giannis does come back before Game 3, and he's available by Game 2, it might be a different series. We know what he can do by himself. We know what type of offense he brings to the table and what type of defense he brings to the table. Even if he's injured, he still can give that 35 ball. So it might be different if Giannis, he gets healthy by Game 2 or 3, but we'll see what happens. I got Pacers in 6.
Just read a report from Sham saying that Giannis could be out for 2 to 4 weeks. Another guy on Twitter said that report is very misleading. Looking at a report from the Milwaukee Bucks practice saying that Lillard practiced fully and Giannis is still out of live drills. So with all of that knowledge, I just feel like it wouldn't make sense for me to go with the Milwaukee Bucks. If Giannis was healthy, they probably do win this series in 6 games, maybe potentially 7 games. But without him, I'm not putting my trust in Damian Lillard. I've already put my trust in Joel Embiid to get out of the first round against this New York Knicks team at the number 2 seed, but I won't do that with this 3-seeded Milwaukee Bucks team because I feel like the Indiana Pacers will be able to get their game off without Giannis being the force that he is on the defensive side of the ball, and also offensively we're bringing so much rim pressure and getting downhill every single time. This is a series for guys like Siakam and Tyrese Halliburton to step up and do their jobs, and with the pace that the Indiana Pacers play at. They'll be able to, get out on the break really quickly, and, they'll be able to get a lot of three balls up. And so, for the Indiana Pacers, it's really all about controlling the pace of the game and controlling the game overall. If they're able to do that, I have no doubt in my mind that they'll be able to get these guys out of here without Giannis in 6 games. And what will it take for the Milwaukee Bucks to overcome all of that? It's just Damian Lillard playing out of his mind. And I just really can't see that. If he plays anything like he did against the Denver Nuggets in that one season, that one playoff series, I'll give them a fair shot at that point. But we're just gonna have to see it, to believe it. That's just what it comes down to. And so, if Damian Lillard isn't on his game, or he's just playing like he's been playing this entire season, then the Milwaukee Bucks aren't a team that's prepared to, make a postseason run without their leader Giannis. And so it's going to be tough overall. I'm not too sure if Giannis is going to be able to come back with all these reports that are out. We're just going to have to wait and see with that. But from right now, if I had to make a prediction and put my money on it, I would just go with the Indiana Pacers to win this series in 6 games. And then last, we go ahead and move on to the last series that we have in the Eastern Conference between the 4 and the 5 seed. We have the 4-seeded Cleveland Cavaliers going on the road to play, not on the road, but to play the 5th-seeded Orlando Magic. So let's go ahead and get a prediction there to close out the Eastern Conference.
I was kind of thinking about this, and I mean, I really thought it was going to be a really, really tightly contested series, and it goes to 7. But now that I had time to really think about it, I mean, it's really closer between 5 and 6 games. I'm going to be a little generous and go to 6 games. I think the Cavs win in 6 games. I mean, when I kind of look at it, I mean, Orlando by far and away has the worst playoff offense of any team in the playoffs. I mean, they're like the 26th ranked offense. They just cannot shoot the basketball, simply put. Their offense doesn't generate much 3-pointers, and they don't hit 3-pointers like that. The only guys to cross like 100 3-point attempts or 100 3-point makes is Paolo and Jalen Suggs. They're really their best shooters, Joe Ingles, and he only plays about 15 minutes a night. And he's a bit of a defensive liability, so it's hard trusting this this Orlando offense against a Cavs team where they have Allen and Mobley on the floor together. I mean, defensively, it's a problem. They have the size to match up, and it's not like the New York series last year where, they still had a half-court guy in Jalen Brunson that can still score, and RJ Barrett, that can still score. The Magic kind of struggle in a half-court setting, and it's hard to trust them in a series like this, even with the possibly slightly hobbled Donovan Mitchell, who did look better in the last 2 games of the regular season. So, I'm gonna have to go to the Cavs in this one. I think their experience and their 3-point shooting is a difference maker here, and I just can't see Orlando winning this.
Yeah, I got the Cavs winning in 6 as well. I feel like offensively, if Garland and Mitchell both can figure it out and show up, they're gonna have a phenomenal series. And they haven't really played much together. Both had injuries this year, both had time off this year, and I just feel like offensively and size wise, they're gonna give Orlando some trouble. Orlando really can't they really can't space the ball. They really don't got that much shooters on their team. I think Paulo's gonna have a good series, but the other guys got to show up and they got to hit some shots from outside. Paulo as well. He got to become a better shooter. He got to hit some shots from outside. And then I feel like the Cavs, Donovan Mitchell, the two Twin Towers, and Mobley and Jared Allen and Garland, they should figure it out. And offensively, they should move on.
I believe this series is going to be a good wake up call to the Orlando Magic organization to go out and get some shooters to surround their franchise guy in Paulo. And so, all the credit in the world to the Orlando Magic, for finishing out the season as the 5th seed. They were always competing in between, 2 through 7, 2 through 8. But they played good enough basketball to keep themselves away from that playing tournament. So, they draw themselves a tough matchup against the Cleveland Cavaliers. I just feel like if these guys go down early, it's just going to be really, really tough for these guys to come back in the game just because they don't have the shooters to bring him back in the matchup. And so for me, I'm going Cavaliers in 5 games. I feel like the Orlando Magic will be good enough. They'll be good enough to get 1 game off these guys. But even with the Cleveland Cavaliers having their up and down season and dealing with the injuries that they've been dealing with, I still think they're a far and better away team than the Orlando Magic. And, you're gonna need shooting in the postseason. And that's what the Orlando Magic will learn with this series. And so, it's all about experience. It's all about a learning experience for this team. And, nobody necessarily thinks they're championship ready, but you want to be able to build off what you have, and you want to be able to learn from your mistakes. And so this will be a great opportunity for them to go into this offseason to help Paulo and help this roster overall by surrounding him with shooters. I know there's rumors out there saying they should go out there and get Klay Thompson. I don't think they should do that. But they should go out in the market and look for some shooters to surround Paulo with. But it's not really a series that's going to have a lot of eyes on it. This will be the first game that kicks off the postseason, I believe, tomorrow on Saturday, 10 a.m. But the Cleveland Cavaliers should learn with their lesson from what happened last year in the postseason against that New York Knicks team. And if Donovan Mitchell and Darius Garland are able to get it going early, it's going to be very, very tough for the Orlando Magic overall. So I'll go ahead and go with the Cleveland Cavaliers in 5 games. And that pretty much wraps up our predictions for the Eastern Conference. And now we move into the Western Conference, which is much more interesting. And we'll go ahead and start off with the number 1 seeded Oklahoma City Thunder going to play the New Orleans Pelicans without Zion Williamson for a couple of weeks.
If Zion Williamson was playing, I think this would be a much closer series in my mind. But still be confident in picking the Thunder. And now with Zion Williamson being out, I'm pretty confident in the pick of the Thunder in 5 in this series, just because, just solely relying on Brandon Ingram as your only creator, I just find it tough. And they play a great style of defense. Herb Jones is probably, to me, the best matchup against a guy like Shea. Since a couple seasons back, he's always played Shea particularly well. I think that's like a great matchup. But the thing is, on the other side, Chet has completely played Jonas Valanciunas off the floor. He's made him basically irrelevant and impossible to play. And that really affects, the Pelicans, because now the floor is like completely spaced and there's a bunch of driving angles, and a guy like J-Dub can have a monster series because they don't really have a true matchup for a guy like that. They can try and play a guy like Dyson Daniels, but he's not going to be offering that much offense. And, defensively, they have a matchup for a guy like Brandon Ingram. Blue Dort has particularly played him pretty well in recent matchups, and CJ McCollum isn't a guy that anybody's really worried about. They do have the size and the wings to kind of keep up with OKC, but I just think scoring wise and the pace and having the best player on the floor and a guy like Shea, I think that they're going to end up winning the series in 5. If Zion had played, it would have been a different story because he just puts so much pressure on your front court. But Zion and who's going to be getting downhill, who's going to be getting to the rim that much, I just don't see it.
Yeah, I got OKC winning this, but I do think it's going to be slight of a struggle. I think, the length and the size of the Pelicans, they're in their guards and their forwards. I think it's going to give OKC some defensive trouble, but at the end of the day, they ain't got their best players. Zion's not playing for them, and it's going to be tough for them offensively. They're gonna struggle finding somebody to be that number one option. And some days it's maybe Ingram, some days it's maybe McCollum, but can they find that consistent option 24/7? I don't believe so. So it's gonna be tough offensively for them. But I got OKC in 5. Chet, J-Dub, Shea, and the supporting cast. I feel like they're gonna play phenomenal and they're gonna get theirs, but we'll see. They're the number one team in the West for a reason. I feel like they got a good easy matchup ahead of them without Zion touching the court playing.
Man, I can only wish my boy Zion was out there in this matchup. Wouldn't have changed my prediction, but this would have been a matchup for him where he would have dominated the series and would have swayed the narrative around him completely. But unfortunately, my guy's not out there due to an injury, and with that, I'm just gonna stick with the Oklahoma City Thunder just winning this series in 5. With Zion, it might have been another game, but the Oklahoma City Thunder overall have just played a great style of basketball, and with SGA leading the way, getting contributions from J-Dub as well as a second option, and Chet, they're overall just a complete better team than this New Orleans Pelicans team. And even with Zion Williamson, it's Zion and BI, and at the end of the day, it's just who else is going to stay a step up. Trey Murphy, Herb Jones. I can't rely on CJ McCollum, as I've talked about in the playing tournament. And so, so now that they have to go into this series and play the number one team in the West without Zion, it's just going to be tough overall. And so, like Abdi said, like you said, just throwing Lou Dort at BI, CJ McCollum is going to have to be, he's going to have to be the guy that steps up, and I just can't see it. So I'm not going to, make up some false hope or false dreams in my head. For the New Orleans Pelicans, I think, without Zion Williamson, it's going to be tough. And for the Oklahoma City Thunder, they're looking at this series like, they got to be able to take care of their business and get these guys out of here as quickly as possible and start gearing up for that second round. And I think that's what they'll do. They'll go ahead and win this series in 5 and then move on. And with that being said, let's go ahead and move on to the next matchup. I'm gonna sit up for this one. We have the 2-seeded Denver Nuggets going up against the Los Angeles Lakers. We have a rematch of last year's Western Conference Finals. We have a lot that we have to get into in this matchup, man. So let's go ahead and get our predictions.
I don't know. I've been struggling with this matchup. I just don't believe it'll be a sweep again. Like, I just feel like that's physically impossible, and there's just no way the Lakers don't have shame like that. Like, they just won't allow a sweep again. I'm leaning towards Denver in 6. I felt like could have been 7, but I'm gonna go with Denver in 6. I will say that for the Lakers side, I mean, this is the healthiest LeBron's going to be in the playoffs since 2020. They're getting the healthiest version of him, one that's been playing great since the post All-Star break. And then on the other side as well, you have, you won't have a guy like Bruce Brown targeting, D'Lo, and I expect him to be better in a series like this. But my thing is the Jamal Murray matchup. I think that's the biggest issue for the Lakers. Jokic is going to get his irregardless of who's guarding him. And, the Rui matchup for a spurt, it was kind of effective. And even then after that, it just didn't, it didn't neutralize him at all. It didn't really affect him after that. But Jamal Murray really was the issue for the Lakers. They didn't really have a guy to guard him. Dennis Schroeder was good getting around screens, but he was just too small to guard him in matchups. Gabe Vincent, it's kind of tough guarding him with that because he's a little smaller. He's a pestier defender, but he's a little smaller. And then, you have a guy like maybe Spencer Dinwiddie. Maybe that's the answer in trying to guard Jamal Murray. I think he's been good defensively for the Lakers, but that's really the issue at hand. And for the Lakers, I mean, they got to stop the contributions from the other guys, the Michael Porter Jr.'s. You can't have a game or KCP's, getting off 4 threes or 5 threes. And, you know, the Lakers have a chance with LeBron being healthy, and they have a chance with Anthony Davis there. But ultimately, I think the Denver's late game offense just completely blows out, the Lakers offense. I think the Lakers offense runs into too many issues where they get stuck, where it gets muddy. They have been playing great offensively for the last 2 or 3 months, but defensively, it's been the complete opposite. They've been kind of odd, shady defensively. They haven't been that great, but offensively, they've been great. But it's just that late game offense. You saw it against the Pelicans. Down the stretch, what does their offense kind of look like? And I feel like Denver doesn't really run into those issues. In crunch time, they know that they're going to that de facto 2-man game. And, ultimately, that's where I'm putting my hopes in, that 2-man game between Jamal Murray and Jokic. And I still don't think that they have a real matchup for a guy like Jamal Murray. And I got to go with Denver in 6, though. I don't think the Lakers have that much. They're not that shameless to not take a game or two.
Man, Lakers in 7, baby. We getting our get back. It's done for these Nuggets. I promise you, it's over for these Nuggets. I feel like this year we're coming in more, healthy into the postseason. I feel like LeBron and AD are much more healthier. I just feel like if D'Lo can play like he's been playing this year, then offensively shooting the ball like he's been shooting all year long, we got a great chance. If D'Lo specifically can show up and not have that nasty series he had against them last year, I think he averaged like 6 points on like 20% shooting from the beyond the arc. It's pretty horrible. If he can come and produce like he's been producing all year long for us, I think we got a chance. I think we got a big, big, big chance against them. And like I said, LeBron's been the healthiest he's been in a minute. AD's played a lot of games this year. He's been healthy all year long. So I felt like our two guys, they're gonna come to bat, and I feel like defensively we're gonna throw the kitchen sink at Jamal Murray. We know Jokic is gonna get his regardless, but I feel like we're gonna throw everything at Jamal Murray, try to figure it out, and try to maintain him from exploding and taking over the game, late game situations like he did last year. And I just feel like it's gonna be a difference. It's gonna be different this year for us. Last year, a lot of close games in the playoffs. A lot of close games. Every single one of those games are close, and I just feel like we got a fighter chance this year. And I'm taking my guys in 7.
It's funny to me. Darwin Ham coming out of that playing game against the Pelicans said, "We ain't ducking no smoke. We want all the fades." It's just funny to me, man. This is smoke you don't want. You don't want to go up against the reigning champs. You don't want to go up against a team that's 8-0 against you, dating back to last year's Western Conference Finals matchup. These guys have your number, and I don't expect anything to change in the postseason. These guys, the Denver Nuggets, are an experienced postseason team. They've won a championship last year. They are reigning champs, and I understand that looking at it from the Los Angeles Lakers perspective, this is probably the matchup you want, just because at the end of the day, you understand that if you want to be able to get to the NBA Finals, you're eventually gonna have to go through this team, and so the Lakers are, you might as well just get these guys out the way early while you can, while you're at your healthiest, while you're at your, your best, and that way, if you guys are able to win this series, every other series after that shouldn't mean anything. It shouldn't be hard whatsoever. You should be able to comfortably beat the rest of the teams that remain in the Western Conference, because the Denver Nuggets are the team to beat. And, for me, I'm going with the Denver Nuggets in 6 games. And, I think the Lakers, when you go back to last year's matchup in the Western Conference Finals, a lot of those games were close. And even though Laker fans like to bring up the fact that, the Denver Nuggets hit some crazy one-legged shots, and that's what swayed the series, I wouldn't necessarily, put it that way. I think the Denver Nuggets just played a great brand of basketball throughout the series, and down the stretch, they were able to execute better than the Los Angeles Lakers. Now, on the flip side, like you guys have mentioned, LeBron James is at his healthiest to start off the postseason in comparison to last year where he was hobbled. But I don't think that's going to change anything. I think LeBron James has been healthy for majority of this season, and they still were unable to beat this team. And in order for the Lakers to win, it's not coming down to guys like LeBron James and Anthony Davis. It's coming down to their other guys, their other role players. Rui has to be able to contribute highly in this series. Austin Reeves has to step up as a third option. You need D'Angelo Russell to shoot the ball extremely well. And then you might have a chance at just winning. That doesn't even guarantee you winning this series. For the Denver Nuggets, they're going to continue to play their style of basketball that they've been playing all year long. They were in contention for the 1 seed all season long for a reason. they found their formula to playing winning basketball, and that's Nikola Jokic and Jamal Murray being a solid and great 1-2 punch duo, one of the best that we've seen in all of basketball. Nikola Jokic is going to be able to get his game off. And last year, when we came on to the postseason, and we had to talk about X factors and who needed to be the guy that stepped up for both teams, I highlighted that Jamal Murray needed to be that guy because the Lakers had nobody to contain him. I still kind of feel that I still kind of feel that way today. I still feel like the Los Angeles Lakers don't have a guy that they can throw at to stop Jamal Murray. So I think Jamal Murray is going to be just fine in this series. And for me, if I had to put an X factor on the Denver Nuggets, it has to be a guy like Michael Porter Jr. He has to be that guy that steps up and consistently puts up 18 to 22 points a game. And after that, with Nikola Jokic being the floor general that he is, he's going to be able to get everybody involved and get his own at the same time. And so, Denver Nuggets, they'll win this game. They'll win this series in 6. The Los Angeles Lakers, overall, even though they were able to finish out the season with the 47-35 record, doesn't necessarily tell the full story whatsoever. I just don't think they have the personnel. They have the guys to keep up with this Denver Nuggets ball club. And so, like I picked last year, I had the Denver Nuggets winning in that series in the Western Conference Finals, and I'm sticking with it in this first round matchup. But this is going to be a very, very interesting matchup. I hope it's a lot more entertaining than it was last year. And I think the Lakers do have a little bit more shame, and they won't be able to they won't just get swept off the floor. And so, sticking with my pick, Nuggets in 6. And now we go ahead and move on to another interesting matchup in the Western Conference. We have the 3-seeded Minnesota Timberwolves going up against the 6-seeded Phoenix Suns. The Phoenix Suns have been able to beat these guys 3 times in a row this season. But, overall in the postseason, it's a 0-0 slate. And, let's go ahead and get our predictions.
I don't know. I mean, I've kind of just been struggling. I don't know how much stock I should be putting into the regular season matchups, but I think I'll go with the Suns in 6 in this series, just because, I mean, like we saw in the regular season matchups, they've kind of sold out to stop Anthony Edwards, and it's not like Anthony Edwards is going to be killing them with his playmaking. They're not too worried about Mike Conley scoring, and with this team, like turnovers have repeatedly been an issue, and their half-court offense has been a problem. And when you kind of look at it, when they're trying to sell out to stop Ant, he's not going to punish them. Cat is a bit of a huge X factor really for the Wolves in this series, and his drives have been a bit erratic. They're fine. They're living with Cat trying to beat them, and it's just this team is just the half-court offense is what just throws me off. Physically, and defensively they have the matchups, but really it's who are you going to put Cat on to start the series? Who is he going to be guarding? Is he going to be guarding Grayson Allen? Is he going to be guarding KD? Grayson Allen is going to be running off screens, and that's going to be a tough matchup to have your power forward, your 6'10" power forward, try to chase a guy like that around screens. And, are you going to put him on KD, which is, another problematic matchup? At the end of the day, it's going to have to be a series where, he's going to be staggered off the bench, or he's going to be staggered from starting next to Gobert, but it just won't happen because, he's an all-star. It's Cat. You're not going to bench, Cat in these type of matchups. So I just think, the Suns having 3 guys that are able to really, punish Rudy Gobert for being in a drop coverage. They're all 3 pull-up jump shooters. It's just, I really thought coming into this matchup, you look at Ant's stats against the Suns. I mean, he's averaging like 14 points. I mean, he's been struggling. They're selling out to stop him, and he's not going to kill him with his playmaking. It's not like the Nuggets last year. They weren't really selling out to stop him. He was just getting his. But I just think the Suns are going to sell out to stop him, and their scoring on the other end is going to be a bit too much for Minnesota to handle. So I think I got the Suns in 6, but I do like the Minnesota physicality and their size and their defense, but I just can't trust their half-court offense right now.
I think I'm gonna go with the Nuggets, not the Nuggets, but the Minnesota in 7. I think regular season. I feel like once Cat comes back, it kind of is gonna take the load off and give him some more space. And I know the Suns got D-Book, KD, and they got Bradley Beal, but I feel like sometimes the inconsistencies can happen, and I just feel like defensively, I feel like Ant's gonna show up this playoffs, and he's gonna put on a show. I feel like he's gonna be attacking Devin Booker, and I think he's gonna win that matchup by a whole lot. So for me, I think defensively towards the end game, I feel like Gobert is gonna be there, Cat's gonna be there, you can sub on Naz Reid. They got Jaden McDaniels and Ant. feel like, a defensive lineup, that's going to be a big struggle for the Suns. I feel like offensively on the boards and defensively on the boards, I think Minnesota is going to win by a lot. And I think they come out in 7. I think Ant he comes out and wins his first playoff matchup.
I just, I know you're not supposed to put a lot of stock in regular season matchups, but when a team gets swept, it's, two teams that are going to be in the postseason, two teams that are looking to be considered championship contending teams. You just kind of have to watch the game extremely close. You gotta figure out, why one team is struggling, and you got to figure out why one team has so much success against the other. And so, for this Phoenix Suns and Minnesota Timberwolves matchup, I think Abdi pretty much highlighted, everything perfectly to a T. At the end of the day, this is what the Phoenix Suns envisioned when they, went out and got Kevin Durant, when they went out and got Bradley Beal. To not be in a position where, you have, matchup problems offensively, and, offense, and especially on the offensive side of the ball, you have three guys that can go ahead and put the ball on the floor and get a bucket, at any moment. So that's pretty much how they've been playing this entire season. You have Devin Booker, you have Kevin Durant, you have Bradley Beal. Whichever way you want to order them in the pecking order, it's still a three-headed snake at the end of the day. And with Grayson Allen being in the mix as well as a shooter, and him being a good defender, a good enough defender to stay on the floor, it's just going to be extremely tough for this Minnesota Timberwolves team to compete on a personnel level. Do these guys have the guys to compete? Do these guys understand and have the right? And does their head coach know, the right rotations to play against this Phoenix Suns team? And this is where I take the regular season stock in consideration, just because you play these guys 3 times. At some point you're supposed to use those first couple of games to kind of figure out what's going wrong. That way, you can kind of prepare yourself. And with the way the end of the season was going, these two teams were low key kind of destined to play in the postseason. I understand the Thunder and the Nuggets and the Timberwolves were all in a race at the very end, but at the end of the day, you have to be able to game plan and prepare for all of these matchups. And for Anthony Edwards, it's just going to be tough for him to get his game off in this series, because I understand that, and I know that the Phoenix Suns will just throw a lot of bodies at him, and him not being the playmaker for this team, pretty much don't let Ant get his game off and let somebody else beat you. And when I look at this Minnesota Timberwolves team, Abdi said Cat is the X factor. He is the X factor. This is a series where he's going to have to step up heavily, when Anthony Edwards is getting blitzed, and I'm not too sure if Cat is going to be able to step up to the plate. And
I kind of said, like, if Cat can't perform in this series, like, I don't think he'll ever perform in the playoffs. Like, that's just kind of how I view him as a player now. Like, if he can't get his game off in this type of series where his post ups and his 3-point shooting are going to be critical to this team's offense, and the reality is, it's kind of just like what Big H said, is he's going to be taking off the load from Ant. Like, their best offensive ratings are when Cat's on the floor. And, like, my issue with Cat really isn't his offense. Obviously his driving is a problem sometimes. He's a bit turnover prone, but he's the X factor in the series. And if Cat can't perform in this series, like, he's never going to perform in the playoffs. That's just the reality. He'll never have a playoff series where he's going to perform, because this is the best matchup for him.
Exactly. This is pretty much the best matchup for him, just because they're going up against a very undersized Phoenix Suns team. And so if he's able to get his game off, then I do believe the Timberwolves have a shot at winning this series. But if I had to make a prediction today, which I have to, I'm going to go ahead and stick with the Phoenix Suns to win this series in 6 games. And I understand that these guys, when they got all these guys and put these guys together on this roster, what their plan was in the postseason. They just wanted to get to this dance, and I'm just going to let Devin Booker and Kevin Durant and Bradley Beal do the rest. They'll take care of the offense, and then they'll figure out the defensive side of the ball itself as the matchups get harder as the rounds progress. So I'll go ahead and go with the Phoenix Suns to win the series in 6. I hope it's an entertaining series. But now we go ahead and move on to the 4 and 5 seeded matchup between the Los Angeles Clippers and the Dallas Mavericks. For maybe the 3rd time in 4 years we have these two teams matched up once again. The Clippers have home court advantage throughout this series. So let's go ahead and get a prediction going over here.
I mean, I would have been excited for this series just because it's a rematch. There's a lot of narratives going on. Harden and Paul George and Westbrook chasing a ring. Luka trying to overcome, his Clippers demons, and Kyrie looking for redemption. There's a lot of, narratives going on, whose team is really, that good. You saw the Clippers for that 2 month stretch look great. You've seen the Mavs ever since the trade deadline look good. There's really just a matchup of a lot of narratives, but with the reports about Kawhi's knee swelling and how the Clippers are very, very cryptic about how he is, but I feel like they tend to underreport how badly their issues tend to be. I just find it difficult to trust in Kawhi's health, in going into the series, even if he is playing. I do think that knee swelling is going to end up bothering him, and we're not going to get a fully healthy Kawhi Leonard in this type of series, which is kind of necessary at this point because the Mavericks, ever since the trade deadline, they got a guy like Daniel Gafford. They have Derek Lively on the roster. They have Maxi Kleber. They have a lot of size. PJ Washington. They have a lot of big, forwards and wings and centers. And, you have Luka Doncic, who, if a healthy Kawhi Leonard isn't there to be able to guard him, they're not really going to have a matchup for a guy like that. I understand defensively, the Clippers can hunt a guy like Luka. They can attack a guy like Kyrie, but overall, I just feel like with the size combination and with Luka's performances and how he's been as a player, I just feel like it's going to be a little bit too overwhelming for the Clippers if Kawhi Leonard just isn't healthy. I will say that the Mavs role players are a bit suspect shooting wise. Derek Jones Jr. and PJ Washington, they aren't the best shooters. It's not like Dorian Finney-Smith and Reggie Bullock, who, they were snipers up until that Warriors series. But on the other side, they're able to put the ball on the floor. You see multiple times when Luka gets blitzed, Derek Jones Jr. is able to dribble and get to the basket. PJ Washington is able to dribble and get to the basket. You even saw in that Warriors and Mavericks matchup earlier in the season, PJ Washington is able to put the ball on the floor and make plays. And so I just feel like their role players are going to have to make plays like that. But the shooting is a little bit more suspect. But if Kawhi Leonard was healthy, I would have picked the Clippers in 7. But I'm just not trusting that knee swelling. It doesn't sound good. Like the way Lawrence Frank, their GM, was talking, it's just not looking good for Kawhi. So I got to go with the Mavs in 5.
I got the Mavs in 6. I think I think Kawhi comes back. He's gonna test out that knee, see how it goes. I feel like he's gonna play 1 to 2 games at least, and he's gonna try to give it a go. But at the same time, man, that knee's been shredded. He hasn't practiced much. He hasn't done much on it. I just think that it's not gonna be enough. Paul George and James Harden by themselves, I don't think it's gonna be enough. I think they should start Westbrook in the lineup if Kawhi doesn't make it a go. I feel like he's gonna give him a little more spacing and stuff like that. But I just think Kyrie and Luka is gonna be too much for them. I think Kyrie and Luka are just gonna be phenomenal. Those role players that they acquired in Gafford and PJ Washington, and they're gonna contribute on the offensive side of the end and on defensive side of the ball. And it's gonna be a fun little series for Dallas. And I think they come out and they advance to the next round. But Clippers, man, I think this might be the end of them.
Yeah, man. I think Abdi made a very, very good point at the Los Angeles Clippers underreporting Kawhi Leonard's injuries. Because I remember going back to last year when they played the Phoenix Suns in that round. I mean, we didn't really know until that Kawhi Leonard had an ACL injury or like a meniscus injury up until the very end of it. And so, at the end of the day, with Kawhi Leonard once again dealing with, the same knee injuries and same knee problems, it's just very tough for me to put my trust in this Clippers basketball team. I know Russell Westbrook's going to go out there. He's going to give it 100% effort. And, Paul George, not too sure what to expect from him in the postseason. Will he play great? Will he go back to his playoff P ways? It's just kind of like a wait and see kind of thing. And for James Harden, I mean, I'm not going to sit here and say he's going to have a great series. I'll never go ahead and sit here and say that. So I don't expect him to show up in the postseason, platform like this in a matchup against a very hungry, Dallas Mavericks team. I think this is the best they've looked in a very, very long time. And when they traded for a guy like Kyrie, this is kind of what they envisioned as a team. The way that they've been playing basketball, especially since the All-Star break, everything's just kind of been free flowing, and it's been great for them overall. And so, for the Dallas Mavericks, I have these guys winning the series in 6. I don't think Kawhi is going to be out for the whole series. I like Big H mentioned, I do think that he'll give this his knee a couple of games, but at some point it's just not going to, the swelling is just not going to go down in time for the next game. And so he might just give it a shot early on. And, the Dallas Mavericks have an opportunity to, obviously go into Los Angeles and steal home court. And I feel like that's what they'll do. And once they do that, I don't think they'll look back in this series. And so, if Kawhi Leonard was playing, I would swing the other way. I would probably say they'll win this series in 7, but I got to go ahead and say that, with Kawhi, I have to keep in mind that Kawhi Leonard might not be able to finish out this series because of his knee injury. And I'm not going to trust all the other counterparts on this Clippers basketball team. So go ahead and give me the Dallas Mavericks to win this series in 6. I think the Clippers are still a good enough team to, win a couple of games off this Dallas Mavericks team. And, hopefully, it's still an entertaining matchup, and hopefully Kawhi Leonard's knee is able to, give it a good go. And hopefully I'm wrong about this series overall. So, but overall, like I said, that pretty much wraps up our NBA playoff predictions.
Record a new hit, then we making us a film. Wouldn't sign a deal if I got a couple mil. Been in the lab, now they throwing out deals. Me and now Lake, now that's overkill.